can't tell you how much easier it is as a rabbi when you have a financial report like that, and the leadership that we have across our lay leadership for all that kind of work that allows us to focus on other things, because I know that many of my colleagues have to worry about that as well. Abby did such a beautiful job of kind of thanking the people on our team in particular, but I just want to echo that it's a privilege every day to work with the extraordinary clergy and team that we have at Central Synagogue. It makes it, everyone is striving to not only do their best here, but to contribute to the world in a significant way, and they're also just mensches and fun people to be with. So I just feel very, very lucky to work with this incredible team. So as Rabbi Salth began, we are entering a new chapter in our story, which is Bamidbar. Bamidbar in Hebrew literally means in the wilderness, but this book is known in English as the Book of Numbers because it begins with a census of the Israelite people. The counting of all the Israelites was a very important way of taking stock of who we were and which tribes we represented and who was able-bodied enough to contribute in some way. The Hebrew for taking a census is interesting. It's su'u et rosh, which literally means lift the head. That's how you count it, was lifting the head, which prompted a rabbinic commentary from Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, who said, counting or lifting the head, let the Israelites hold their heads high in pride. So taking count is a way that you can help your community feel pride in what we've accomplished. So to that end, I wanted to begin my remarks by giving you a little bit of our lifting of our heads, of the counts of, where our membership is through a few numbers. I hope it will help you feel proud of Central's year in numbers. So I'm going to start with the beginning of the life cycle. We had 43 new babies that were born in our community this year. We currently have 410 children enrolled in the LCLJ for next year, which is up from 320 last year at this time, which puts us on a track to be probably over 700 students in the coming year, which is amazing. We have over 40 kids in our brand new, never before summer camp for early childhood. We had 30 students in our confirmation class who traveled to Spain and will lead our Erev Shavuot service this Tuesday night, and I hope you'll come. They're quite amazing. We had 136 students take Exploring Judaism classes this year, and 40 of them became Jews. Over 740 adults, think about that, 740 adults engaged in some kind of sustained learning, not a one-off speaker, but weekly learning in either Melton or EJ or iEngage or a small group or a Bible or a Talmud class. That's an extraordinary number. We had a listening campaign that kicked off with the high holidays, and we had over 500 one-on-one conversations between congregant and congregant. And from that, some of the work we did included having about 1,000 people of different faiths who came to our sanctuary with Governor Cuomo to help raise the age of criminal responsibility this year. This year, our viewership for the high holidays for live streaming exponentially grew. So we can't give an exact number because it's hard to know how many people watch one IP address, but we know that it is in the hundreds of thousands, and we know that it is from at least 100 countries. So we have a global reach, and we continue to hear more and more from these people who really feel that Central is their Jewish home. And we have more than doubled our wait list since the election, which is kind of hard to believe. We call it the Trump bump, and to over 500 families. So, which is an extraordinary thing and a high-class problem that we're going to put our minds to because we need to continue to think about that. So these are numbers we can feel very proud of. But our congregation is so much more than just the numbers. And it's really important, critically important, that each person feels they're not just numbered, but they're known, that they're noticed, that they're needed. So as part of this effort, in the coming year, we are putting some real energy into expanding our core group initiative to double the number of people who are participating in these lay-led groups. We have 200 now, but we want to make it at least double next year. Participating in these small lay-led groups at Central, and this large congregation, we really believe, is made intimate by having a small group with some sustained contact where you can learn and celebrate and spiritually grow together. So you will hear more about this kickoff at the High Holidays, but we hope that each of you will find your core community within this congregation. So this book is not only called Numbers, but as I said in the beginning, it's called Bamidbar, in the wilderness. And I think it's an apt name for the way I would characterize the way this year felt in some ways. Our national and spiritual landscape. We are in uncharted territory. These months since the election, I've seen a level of activism and outrage and vulnerability, polarization and agitation like I've never seen before. It has meant some harder conversations that I've had with members in the last 6 months, more so than in all my 10 years before combined. There are definitely those who want Central to be doing more, speaking out more, acting more, and there are those who say we must make sure Central remains a sanctuary and above all of this. So this is a balancing act and a conversation that will be a continual one. It's caused some important soul searching for me, for our senior leadership, for our lay leaders, about the primary mission of Central in these times and where our Jewish values call us to have to act. I want to affirm that we are first and foremost, unequivocally, a spiritual home for our community. We will continue to prioritize caring for those who are sick or struggling, for comforting our mourners, educating our children, seeding and sustaining a love for Israel, celebrating our milestones, and observing Shabbat and the seasons of our calendar. Our synagogue is uniquely privileged to share in all these holy acts which make up the sacred fabric of our lives. And we will also find ways to live out Torah in the public and even political arena when our Jewish values call us to act and speak out in thoughtful conversation with all of you and our leadership. I continue to be so proud of the diversity of this congregation. It is its strength. We need to lean into the many varied views of the congregation as we exercise our muscles for constructive disagreement and respectful dialogue. If we can do this here, we can model how it can be done in the wider Jewish community and in our city and in our country. And we began this process with the initiative this spring of the Enduring Disagreements Initiative, where we heard from speakers such as David Harris and Jonathan Haidt and Yehuda Kurtzer and Rabbi Chaudhry. And we had over 100 congregants engage in sustained practice over the Omer period to prepare themselves for what I'd call athletic listening. The kinds of conversations that we need to have in the political realm, in issues of justice, and also regarding Israel. And speaking of Israel, I feel like we're in new territory regarding Israel as well. Just yesterday was Yom Yerushalayim, which is Jerusalem Day, yesterday was marking the 50th anniversary when we celebrated Israel's control of the old city and the wall upon the victory of the Six-Day War. 50 years ago, Israelis and Jews around the world celebrated the reunification of Jerusalem for the first time in 2,000 years with unequivocal pride and joy. 50 years later, the ramifications of that war and a continued presence in the West Bank for 50 years has taken its toll on Israel, on the Palestinian people residing there, and even on the American-Jewish relationship with Israel. So we will continue to affirm our unconditional support for the state of Israel, even while we are able to be lovingly critical. We will continue to make sure we engage in efforts that can help Israel realize its aspirations for a safe and peaceful resolution to this conflict. So there is still so much in the world that feels unstable beneath us: rising anti-Semitism at home and in Europe, rising anti-Israel sentiment, especially on college campuses and in the younger generations, recent terror attacks, including the one just this week in Manchester at a concert with children. These acts shake our confidence. But I think that this is where our community has found even more comfort and strength and power in being together. As we say in our service, and Michael Walzer wrote beautifully, Wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt. But the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. We are in that wilderness now, but we will work together towards the promise of a world more hopeful, more beautiful, more restored. And together, we will all do our part as Central to help us get there. Thank you for the privilege of being able to do that with you.